For most of human history, winter was not calm at all. It was watchful. It listened. It pressed in from all sides. And when the nights stretched longer than the days, people believed they were no longer alone in the dark. I am Gregory Hallows, and this is Preserve Halloween Podcast. So welcome back. We're going to continue our journey into winter folklore and all the things that happen when it gets cold outside and dark and the nights are longer and the days are super short. Long before electricity, before streetlights, before clocks governed the hours, winter nights were measured differently. You didn't ask what time it was, you asked how long the dark had lasted. You counted logs on the fire, you counted breaths, you counted prayers, and as the fire burned lower, stories began. Across Europe and far beyond it, winter folklore developed around one shared idea. Someone or something was watching while the world slept. Not always malicious, not always kind, but always present. These beings were not Halloween spirits. They did not belong to October. They belonged to the deep cold, to December, January, and February, when survival depended on vigilance, routine, and respect for unseen forces. And they were called many things: hearth spirits, house guardians, night watchers, winter guests, the unseen ones. Some guarded the fire, some counted footsteps, some punished disorder, some protected children, and some simply observed. And people believed, they deeply believed, that if you behaved correctly through the winter, these spirits would let you live to see spring. In the long night, the home became the world. During winter, travel was dangerous. Villages shrank inward. Families gathered close, not for comfort alone, but for survival. The hearth was sacred. The fire had to stay alive. To lose it meant freezing. To mishandle it meant death. So the hearth became more than warmth. It became a boundary. Many winter spirits were believed to live in the house, not outside it. They were not forest ghosts or wandering dead. They were domestic spirits tied to walls, beams, chimneys, and floors, and they were always awake. In Scandinavian folklore, there was the Nisse or Tomte, a small elderly guardian spirit who lived in the barn or attic. He protected livestock and home, but only if respected. A bowl of porridge left out during winter nights wasn't kindness, it was obligation. In Germany, the kobold watched the household, helpful when honored, destructive when ignored. In Slavic traditions, the domovoi lived near the hearth itself, a spirit of the home who could bless a family or curse it. In Britain and Ireland, tales spoke of house wights, brownies, and hobgoblins who worked at night and vanished by morning, offended if thanked, angered if mocked. These weren't fairy tale creatures, they were explanations. Winter demanded explanation because winter was relentless. Crops were gone, animals died, illness spread, fires failed, children vanished into sleep and didn't wake. People needed to believe someone was keeping watch, so they imagined watchers. But winter folklore didn't stop at the hearth. Beyond the glow of the fire, there was the night itself, the vast, endless darkness beyond the door. And people believed that when the night grew long enough, it developed a presence of its own. This is where winter spirits become less domestic and more cosmic. The longest nights of the year were believed to weaken boundaries. The same way Samhain thinned the veil in autumn, the deep winter nights stretched it, pulling it taut until it threatened to tear. In these nights, people said, spirits could hear thoughts. Dreams leaked into waking life. Shadows moved independently. Voices traveled farther. The dead lingered longer. This wasn't a metaphor. This was survival psychology wrapped in myth. To stay awake through winter nights, guarding fires, tending animals, nursing the sick, people would tell stories. But these stories weren't always meant to entertain. Many were warnings, instructions, codes. Don't whistle at night. Don't leave the fire unattended. Don't speak names aloud after midnight. Don't look out the window when you hear footsteps in the snow. And most importantly, don't assume the night is empty, because winter folklore insisted that the night was crowded, not with chaos, but with watchers. And some of these watchers were benevolent, others were neutral, and some were terrifying. There were spirits believed to count the living. In parts of Eastern Europe, winter spirits were said to move from house to house, listening at doors, tallying breaths. Those who were sick or weak were marked, not by malice, but by inevitability. In alpine regions, stories spoke of beings that paused at windows, not to enter, but to observe, to note whether families kept their rituals, whether they honored the old rules. Winter, in folklore, was a test, and spirits were the examiners. This is why so many winter traditions revolve around stillness and order. Clean the house before midwinter, finish spinning and weaving, put your tools away, set food aside, keep the fire fed. Chaos invited attention, and attention in winter folklore was dangerous. We'll be right back after this quick break. I am Gregory Hallows, your voice behind the Preserve Halloween podcast and founder of the Halloween Preservation Society. Halloween is more than a holiday. It's history, folklore, and a tradition worth protecting. If you love the stories, the research, and the deep dives into Halloween I bring you, please consider supporting the Preserve Halloween podcast. Your support can help me with more research opportunities, including travel to locations relevant to Halloween history, and to bring you even more insight into the world's greatest holiday. Every one of your contributions, no matter the amount, helps keep the jack-o'-lantern glowing just a little bit longer. So support the show if you can, help me preserve the past, and keep Halloween history alive for generations to come. Check the links in the show description to find out more. And thank you. And now, back to the podcast. By the Victorian era, which we've explored deeply in some of our previous episodes, well, maybe not deeply, but they'll be explored some more, these beliefs hadn't vanished. They simply were reframed. The Victorians inherited centuries of winter folklore and layered it with morality, literature, and domestic idealism. The hearth became symbolic. The fire represented family unity. The watcher spirits became metaphors for conscience, memory, and guilt. But beneath the language of respectability, the old fear remained. The winter watches. The house remembers. That something unseen knows whether you're behaving correctly when the night grows long. This is why winter ghost stories often begin quietly. A fire, a ticking clock, a wind outside, and the feeling, subtle, creeping, that someone is present, not attacking, not speaking, just watching. That sensation is ancient. And by the time winter truly settles in, something has already shifted. The nights have grown long enough that people stop counting hours and begin counting lamps. A single candle becomes a measure of time. A hearth fire becomes a border. Windows are watched not for what's inside, but for what might be looking back. Across cultures, folklore changes tone once winter passes its early threshold. The playful spirits disappear. The wandering souls become quieter. What replaces them is something heavier, older, more patient. Winter folklore does not rush. It waits. And in many traditions, it is during this middle stretch of the cold season, not the beginning and not the end, that the most unsettling stories emerge. Not stories of attack, not stories of pursuit, but stories of presence. Something is there. It does not knock. It does not announce itself. It simply exists, just beyond the edge of light. In rural Europe, this was the season when people spoke carefully, when names were avoided, when warnings were passed in fragments rather than explanations. Because winter, they believed, had ears. In alpine valleys, people said that sound traveled differently once the snow deepened, carried farther, twisted by ice and stone. Whispers could move downhill. Footsteps would echo where no one stood. And the old belief followed naturally. If sound could travel, so could spirits. This is where winter folklore diverges from Halloween lore. Autumn spirits wander. Winter spirits linger. They do not cross thresholds easily, but once inside they remain. Across Northern Europe, the British Isles, Eastern Europe, and parts of Scandinavia, winter became associated with indoor hauntings, fireside apparitions, shapes reflected in windows, presences felt behind chairs or at the edge of staircases. This was not accidental. Winter forced people inward, and folklore followed them. The home, once a place of warmth and safety, became a contained world, and containment breeds tension. In folklore, enclosed spaces invite reflection. Reflection invites memory. Memory invites the dead. In many traditions, winter ghosts are not stranger, they are familiar. They are former occupants, they are former family members, former lives tied to the structure itself. This is why winter ghost stories so often involve houses that are not overtly cursed, just remembering. A stair creaks where someone once fell. A chair faces the fire though no one placed it there. A door stands open though the wind has died. Winter folklore does not require spectacle. Stillness is enough. And so by midwinter, the tone of stories shifts from fear to unease. The question is no longer what is haunting us. It becomes who has returned. In pre-industrial societies, winter deaths were common. Illness spread more easily, food scarcity weakened bodies, accidents occurred in darkness and ice. The dead did not always leave immediately in folklore. They stayed near warmth, near habit, near routine, which is why winter spirits are often described not as violent, but as observant, watching from corners, standing near doorways, lingering beside beds. They are not here to harm. They are there because the world has narrowed and they have nowhere else to go. This belief appears again and again. When the living crowd together, the dead draw closer. Winter compresses existence. Days blur, nights stretch. The boundary between one evening and the next becomes uncertain, and in that uncertainty, folklore fills the gaps. Stories were told softly, not as entertainment, but as explanation. Why did the fire go out? Why did the window frost form that shape? Why did the floor creak when everyone was asleep? Winter folklore provided answers where reason faltered. And unlike autumn legends, which often ended with survival, winter stories often ended unresolved. No escape, no victory, just coexistence. The spirit remains, the house endures, the winter continues. This is why winter folklore carries a different weight. It does not ask you to confront fear. It asks you to live alongside it. And living alongside fear changes people. And so, that is the first, that is part one of this current podcast. I'm going to do part two separately, kind of give you a little bit of waiting around. I'm going to be posting podcasts the next few days all in a row, so you're going to get a lot all at once. I want to hit a bunch of new stuff before Christmas comes. And then Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I think I'm going to concentrate on doing some ghost stories. I'm going to read some ghost stories, some of my favorites. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, thank you for listening. It was fun. I enjoy all of this winter folklore big time. I miss living somewhere where it snows because, being hot all the time is not fun. It's nice when you want to do things outside, but you miss a lot of the seasons, which is not fun. But until next time, stay strange, stay curious, stay spooky, and always preserve Halloween.